On last week have fixed attention on the violence perpetrated by ISIS, but a study published this week indicates that the world's deadliest terrorist organization actually operates thousands of miles south of Paris and Beirut in Nigeria. The 2015 Global Terrorism Index, published by the Institute for Economics and Peace, has found that Boko Haram, the Nigerian jihadist group, was responsible for over 6,000 deaths in 2014 alone. Now, to talk more about this, I'm joined in our Pretoria Studios by senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, Martin Iwi. Martin, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. So, first of all, help us understand who or what is Boko Haram?
Thank you, and good afternoon from Pretoria. Boko Haram is this radical Islamist group which is based in northeastern Nigeria and has now extended its operations to Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. It's a group that has been around since 2009 when they organized the biggest riot, one of the biggest riots in Nigeria that killed nearly 1,000 people. Even the founder of the group was killed in that operation, but the deputy, who is now the leader of the group, Abubakar Shekau, has launched a vicious campaign in Nigeria and the surrounding countries.
So, as you said, they've rapidly expanded their scope and their ambitions over the past 2 years. They've achieved international notoriety, especially if we look at the 2014 kidnapping of the schoolgirls. Why is this? What do they stand to gain?
Well, Boko Haram has been fighting for the application of Sharia all over Nigeria. Nigeria is roughly divided between north and south, north being mostly Muslims and the south being mostly Christians. But the group is fighting for Sharia to be all over the country, to get the whole country to become an Islamic country, which is not what Nigeria is now. But I think if you look over the years, that core of their objective has actually evolved. They are fighting for so many things now. They've been asking for the liberation of their fighters. They've been asking for actually for justice for the extrajudicial killing of their founding leader, Mohammed Yusuf. They've been asking for justice for all their militants who have been killed. So it's really a group that, I mean, if you want to go by their objectives, you can't really pin them down on anything, because even last year they modified those objectives to include the creation and establishment of a caliphate in Nigeria, roughly along the lines of what used to be the Sokoto Caliphate. And that was modeled actually after the Islamic State declared a caliphate in June 2014. So the group has really evolved when it comes to objectives and also when it comes to its tactics.
Okay, so Martin, then is there a difference between ISIS and Boko Haram, or terrorism in Nigeria versus terrorism in the Middle East?
Well, for a long time, terrorism in Nigeria has been really localized. It has been domestic terrorism to a larger extent, even though links between Boko Haram and other terrorist groups have always been there. It is believed that Osama bin Laden provided the seed money, what is known as $3 million to Mohammed Yusuf to found Boko Haram. But for most of its history until now, Boko Haram actually used to concentrate its attacks in northeastern Nigeria, and its objectives also was limited to that region. Its problem was mainly with the Nigerian government, which it accused of corruption, it accused of the injustices, the economic inequality existing between Nigeria, particularly in the north being the poorest region. One of the poorest regions in Nigeria. So he accused Nigeria of all of those things. But if you look at it now, since March, when Boko Haram actually declared allegiance to the Islamic State, the tactics and the modus operandi of the group have tried to emulate what the Islamic State is doing. But it is still essentially Boko Haram with local objectives, which means that it focuses mainly on Nigeria. The other countries that it's attacking, its reason has been solely that these countries declared war against it. And these countries will include Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. So if these countries were to back off, probably Boko Haram could reconcentrate its focus on Nigeria. But what I think of the Islamic State is that the Islamic State is more violent. It has become extremely violent. It's beheading, even though Boko Haram has also taken over that same practice of beheading people innocently, as we have seen in its recent strategy. So the group is not purely an Islamic State group. It calls itself now that it's the Islamic State West Africa province, which means that it is now part and parcel of the Islamic State. Its structure has also changed to reflect the authority of the Islamic State, with al-Baghdadi being the supreme leader.
All right, Martin, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. That's our senior researcher at the Institute for Security Studies, Martin Iwi. Well, an aeroplane with 161 people on board made an emergency landing in the Black Sea city of Burgas following a bomb threat while en route to Egypt from Poland's capital, Warsaw. All passengers and crew were evacuated and no explosives were found. And another development, New York City police are aware of a newly released Islamic State video which suggests that the largest U.S. city is a potential target of attacks such as those in Paris last week.